The son of George Revard, who grew up in Pasca, one of 7 kids. There's 5 of us left now. I went to college for 4 years, split between studying geology and petroleum land management. Right after college, I went to work for Halliburton, oil company or service company that provides pump service, acidizing and fracking, cementing services for wells, oil and gas wells worldwide. After a little over a year with Halliburton, I joined my father's family oil company in 1977, and I've been self-employed ever since for 41 years now. Some of y'all probably don't know this, but we had a big lawsuit in 2016 where we were fighting the CFRs that Andrew was talking about, and we won the suit. There were a lot of the regulations that were in the new proposed CFRs that were very reasonable and needed to be changed, because we're working off some pretty old revisions of the Code of Federal Regulations. So there's definitely improvement that needs to be made, but the particular set of rules that they were trying to impose on the Osage lands were just too burdensome. It would have put small operators like myself out of business. There's no question about it. And I was the only witness in that federal lawsuit for the Osage producers, because I am an Osage operator. Today I just operate a few properties, but I used to be real active over the last several decades. But we won that lawsuit, and it wasn't until after that lawsuit that I actually had a lot of our Osage members, a lot of whom I didn't know, attend that federal hearing and congratulated me on the testimony that I gave. And ever since that day, I've been getting pressured to consider running for the Mineral Council. And I finally, just recently, made the decision to do that. I thought I could join the chairman and the current council members and bring a little bit of practical oil and gas experience to the group. I've been before the council for my own business interests. For the 41 years I've been operating in Osage County, I have a real good feeling of how it works. I feel like that I'd be able to make a contribution to the council. So as far as these questions, I'm not familiar with the details of the Ute tribe in Utah. It's my understanding that they ran out one of the big oil companies. I don't know if they had something nefarious going on. I don't know the details, but I do know that one of their starting points was actually taking over existing oil fields. We don't have that situation here. It's not like our Mineral Council is going to want to run off all the Osage operators and just take their wells from them. But I am adverse to having the Osage headright owners get in the risky business of drilling wells, at least at this point. I mean, it's a gamble. There's plenty of oil companies around the country that would be happy to bring their risk money to our land like they have for decades. We sit in a royalty position. Of course, we own all the minerals under the estate and lease them out and retain a royalty, which is risk-free. Just as risky as oil business is, I just would hate to see us try to take on just drilling our own wells, at least at this point, because it's just so damn risky. I'm all in favor of developing maybe new entities or get involved in some way with providing technology that would support the oil and gas development, exploration and development. We're talking about the thing is about Osage. It used to be a magnet for activity. There were companies that all over the United States knew where Osage County was. It was low risk, very prolific. It was a nice, neat environment where it was one-stop shopping. You could go to one place, have excellent records, and we've had our times where the price of oil and gas has gone up and down, and we're used to that. I mean, we can live through it. We have. Just like the chairman said, and I remember I was selling oil at $7 a barrel in 1984, 85. Losing money every month just to keep our wells going so we wouldn't lose our lease. But so we've seen those ups and downs throughout the decades. That's not unusual. We can live through that. Eventually we come out of that. But what we have now, and it just happened to be simultaneous with the drop of oil in 2014, where it dropped from 90 barrels down to around 34, is when the superintendent started cracking down on our workovers and new well permits. They've made it so restrictive that we couldn't drill any wells, and we couldn't work over our existing wells. And she, like Andrew just said, we were blocked from our own well records. If you're going to go out and generate an oil and gas prospect, you don't just throw a dart at the board. You have to study and see where the likelihood is of the reserves that you're looking for. I mean, it's already risky enough, but we generate our drilling prospects, and based on these well records, it gives us a clue of where to drill or where not to drill. Dry holes are not necessarily bad. I mean, they're painful to suffer from the financial standpoint, but a dry hole gives you a lot of information. It showed you where you shouldn't have drilled, but it also says, well, had you moved over another 10 acres, you were just on the edge of it. But you have to have those well records to know. And you also need to know what everybody else is doing. If I'm sitting on a lease and I'm maybe, for instance, I have 2 leases over at Peru, Oklahoma. And if the offset operator, I see a rig going in there, and I want to know what he's doing, because maybe the success that they're having might be on my lease too. Maybe I need to look at that. If they decided to come up the hole from the Mississippi line and open up the Bartlesville sand and find oil there, well, it make me want to go look at my logs and look in my Bartlesville and say, how does my Bartlesville well look like theirs? Does it look similar enough that I've got a chance of producing Bartlesville for my wells? But we don't have access to those records anymore. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. Councilman Yates said, we've got to go through the FOIA, which takes months and months, and he called it proprietary, maybe, because it's got somebody's name and address on the old original forms, and all of a sudden the superintendent decided that would be too damaging for the public to see. But these are people like my father, who's been dead 20 years. They're names of companies that were drilling wells in 1918, 1920. They're long gone. What's so proprietary about that? Or what harm is it to have somebody's name and address from 1918? So anyway, we have, I want to see Osage thriving again with activity, but I would be afraid to go out and advertise it at this point, because we got to get the environment more business friendly before we go out and try to bring people in. It used to be we could bring in drilling partners just from about anywhere in the state, but today you mentioned Osage County to a group of investment people in California or Denver. They hear the name Osage, they know what's going on over here. They know that the environment is just not friendly anymore. And solicitor told us, and the chairman and the chief and most of the other council members were in attendance when the solicitor Bax, actually told us to our face, well, you know it's your own damn fault. You took the money, meaning the $360 million settlement. They felt like, well, some of us feel like it's revenge that they've cracked down on us so hard. But we've got to work with them. I know that a lot of the head right owners feel like the BIA is protecting them from the chief, from fear that the chief is trying to take over the minerals, which he's not, or protect them from the producers, which they sometimes view as their adversary, and we're not. The producers, we have a common interest, is get that oil out of the ground and get as much as we can for it. We're not partners, but we have a mutual relationship that what benefits one benefits the other. So I think the Mineral Council has done a really good job in recent years of working with the producers. In just a moment's notice, they'll allow them to come address the council with different issues, which I think is good. But somehow we're going to have to. We all know that we have a problem with the BIA, but not one of us yet has said, well, what are we going to do to fix it? And I was really hoping that Bill Lynn, our director, would bridge this gap and maybe be able to help. And maybe he is and can, but we need to do more. I like what Susan said about sitting down with the superintendent and explaining to her the necessity of the lifting of some of these regulations. Just recently, I applied for a permit to just work over a well. I was wanting to set a cast iron bridge plug over a deep zone and come up and open up a shallower zone that looks real productive. And I get my permit approved, slaps on 8 more pages of requirements, sends out a notice to the surface owners to give them a heads up and give them a chance to block my permit, and tells them how to do it, gives them instructions, here's how you can block Revard's permit, and that's not helpful. And they don't have any, right to block it. If I was drilling too close to a dwelling or something like that, but the permit shouldn't be approved. But I've got an approved permit, and it has to go out and give the surface owners a chance to block it. And then it comes with one little sentence across the middle of it. It says, however, you are not allowed to conduct any operations that affect the dirt or the ground. In other words, telling me I can't dig a pit. And one thing we do when we complete a well, one of the first things we do is dig up the old original pit that we used to drill the well with to begin with, dig up an old hole that we already used once before, just dig it up again, so that when we swab oil and water and acid from our acid jobs back out of the well, it's got a place to go, and we can actually get to see what's coming out of the ground. And we're not allowed to dig a pit anymore. Because what we do after we complete the well, we drain the pit, suck everything out of it, then we fill it back in, and either nature revegetates itself, or sometimes we'll sod it or throw some seed down and some hay. So it's not a damaging thing. And we're not talking about an area hardly any bigger than this area right here, just temporary while we do our work. So I've got a permit that it took me 3 months to get, and I still can't get to do my work. I can't go. And how that affects, it's not just affecting me, it's affecting all of you all. That's 20% royalty that you're not getting because I can't go work on this well. But I think, just real quick, I think diplomatically, and Susan would be good at this, I think, sit down with this woman and try to talk some sense into the BIA. But the chief had mentioned once that maybe we don't have to necessarily deal directly with the BIA. The BIA is just a branch or an entity under the Department of Interior. You know, Zinke's office that Angela was talking about, you know, showed a picture of his desk and all. Maybe we go, you know, maybe we just go over their head, is what I'm saying, and deal another path. It's not saying kick the federal government out of our business. We realize that they're here, they're supposed to preserve and protect our asset, but they're doing the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. And I think if we can get another route, another path of least resistance, I'd work with the chairman and the other council members to try to accomplish that. So anyway, I appreciate the time, and thank you for hosting this.
You're welcome. Thank you, Paul.